Ways of Dying, Melville 67, The Hill. This is only a handful of the long list of poems, novels, and plays penned by a cultural icon this week. He was born as Zakes Mda and adopted the pen name Zakes Mda when he started writing.
Sir, welcome to Morning Love, and thank you very much for making the time.
It's my pleasure.
Before we even go further, Zanemvula Motla Lipule. Just to clarify for our English-speaking viewers, that name means, literally translated, the one who brings rain with them. Why did you change from Zanemvula to Zakes?
No, I did not change. I'm still Zanemvula. So I'm still called that officially. I was named Zakes Mda when I was growing up, and I decided then to use that as a pen name. In short, out of the nostalgia of the days when I was growing up, and also in memory, in fact, of some of my friends during those days with whom we used to create art and play truant, and some of whom left us, you see.
Take us back to a young Zakes Mda. When were you first aware that you had this gift of writing?
Well, it was quite early, actually, from the age of 6 or so, because I used to write, little poems, little short stories, and so on. I started writing in the Xhosa language. My father was a teacher then. He became a lawyer later. I grew up in a house, that was full of books. And I started reading quite early in life. I remember that the first full-length novel that I ever read in my life was a Xhosa novel titled Ingqumbo Yeminyanya by A.C. Jordan, Balo Jordan's father, which was later translated into English by the author as The Wrath of the Ancestors. I was, I think, about 8 or 9 when I read this novel. By the way, the name Zanemvula that you asked me about, I was actually named after a character in that novel, you see, which tells you that already that was some kind of an omen that maybe this boy is going to be a writer. Yeah. So from that age onwards, I was interested in stories, and then, of course, during holidays, we would now visit the grandmother in the village somewhere in the Eastern Cape, and there would get now into contact with another kind of storytelling, the Tsomo, Intsomi, Inganekwane. And then I was fascinated then by this other form of storytelling. And then the two together, the stories that one read in comic books, and then, the village kind of storytelling that we had, the Ntsomi kind, the two came together and, of course, sparked my interest in storytelling.
Take us back to that moment or day when you realized that the transition from writing as a hobby to writing for the masses happened.
It happened when I was 13 years old, when my first short story was published. And of course, obviously, I was very excited. I remember for the first time something I'd written was published, and I was paid, there I was receiving my check for 2 rands. Yeah. And here, holding this money, that came from. Then I thought, so it's possible to write and be paid for it. That's when I decided that maybe one day I will write professionally.
Lesotho is a big part of who you are.
Oh yes,
and
definitely.
What did spending time in Lesotho teach you about yourself, and what did you find when you got to Lesotho, because you were forced to move to Lesotho?
When we were exiled into Lesotho, we were not going into a new culture altogether. You know, it was still our culture. And growing up in Lesotho then, going to school in Lesotho, going as refugees, we were actually going home really. We were in exile, but at home. But what happened there, of course, is that I lost contact with I lost contact actually with isiXhosa altogether. And then my only language was Sesotho and English. I no longer wrote in Xhosa as I did, and focused mostly in writing in English, and then later on in Sesotho as well. That the change that came is otherwise, if I had not gone to Lesotho, I would be writing in Xhosa only, I think.
In actual fact, this is the first part of that interview. It was cut short last week. We'll catch the second half tomorrow.